What's the story, morning glory? What's the word, hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and joining me again for another review of The Real Housewives of the OC, Season 16, Episode 4, Judge and Jury. So we start off with Dr. Jen. She invites Heather over to her house. She's showing her home, and I guess all the family pictures have Ryan in it with no shirt. So, is this normal for this guy to never, ever, ever wear a shirt? Like, what's up with that? I understand that maybe you want to show off your physique, but I don't think this is episode 4, and I don't think we've ever seen this guy dressed from the waist up. So, I don't get it. Anyways, so even Heather notices that he never has a shirt on, and Dr. Jen says that, yeah, he doesn't, he's always half naked. He never wears a shirt. And even when he would pick up and drop off the kids at school, the other mothers would complain to the school about him not wearing a shirt when he would drop off his kids. And so the school had to write them a letter or give them a call saying that, yeah, the other parents are really uncomfortable with you not wearing a shirt when you're coming to the school. So please come fully dressed. Like, what is going on with this man not being able to wear a shirt, even when it's appropriate to wear a shirt? So then they talk about cosmetic surgery. And because obviously Heather's husband is a cosmetic surgeon and Dr. Jen does some type of cosmetic surgery herself, I guess. So when they're talking about that, I don't know if Heather asked her if she had any work done, but Dr. Jen said that a lot of her patients assume that she hasn't had any work done, but she has. She says, everything that I do here in my clinic, I've had it done on myself. And her whole thing is to make sure that her patients look as natural as she does. If she's had work done, she does look good. You can't tell. She also made a joke in her confessional about how a lot of women have that, what does she call it? Cat puppet look. And she says even women who've been sitting in this very chair. So she's referring to other housewives who've been on the show. Yeah, there's this thing where a lot of people are just, they all look the same. They all have the overly inflated cheekbones. They have the super duper big duck lips. Everyone is a carbon copy of one another. I think plastic surgery looks good when you look like yourself, but better, instead of looking like some type of a cartoon character. So Heather says that she's good with everybody except with Shannon. That's the only person that she has an issue with, and we all know why. Moving on to Noella. So Noella, she's having lunch with Nicole, and they're at this outside restaurant, and I thought Noella showed up already 3 sheets to the wind or whatever the terminology is. But evidently she was drinking a lot during the lunch. So they're having lunch together, and she talks about, being served the divorce papers and how the process server came to her home. And because her mother answered the door, the process server just threw the papers at her mom. And she says that her husband is gone. And Nicole was like, well, how do you know he's really gone? Maybe he just left for a trip or whatever, and he's going to come back, or he just needs time for himself. And Noella's like, no, he's gone because his toothbrush is gone. So I know that he's gone for good. So she says that she needs to find him so that he can turn the credit cards back on. Then there was this discussion about her calling her husband, or if she's ever called him. And I think Nicole was like, well, has he had you blocked? Are you not able to give him a call? So right then and there, Noella gets her phone and she calls him. The phone just rings and rings and rings, but he doesn't answer. So Nicole's like, well, at least you're not blocked. Okay, so then Noella starts begging for a hug. She's like, oh my God, I need a hug. And by this time, she's obviously drunk. So she keeps on saying, I need a hug, I need a hug. And you can tell that that Nicole really wasn't trying to give her a hug. This whole lunch, Nicole seemed very uncomfortable, very awkward. She kept on looking around to see if anybody was looking at them, because I guess she was feeling very embarrassed, because at this point, Noella was drunk and just very needy, very weepy. And Nicole seems like someone who really doesn't handle that kind of stuff very well. Other people would have just immediately gotten up and hugged her and maybe encouraged her to leave right then and there, and been really comforting to her. But I guess Nicole, she's just not that type of girl. So when Noella was like, give me a hug, oh please give me a hug, it took everything out of Nicole to get up from her side of the table, move over to Noella's side of the table, and then she was kind of like touching her, like she didn't want to get any like tears on herself or anything. Like she was trying to comfort her, but it was coming off even more awkward, and she just kept on looking over her shoulder at the other customers to see if they were looking at them. And so she was like, let's just go. We need to go. We need to go. And Noella was just like, she wasn't ready to leave, or she was too drunk to understand what Nicole was saying. I don't know. But she was too busy having her breakdown to pay attention to anything that Nicole was trying to say. So that whole scene was really awkward, really uncomfortable. But yeah. Moving on. Shannon. She is working at her place of business, and she's there with her CFO and her daughter, Stella. So she says, oh, her company is called Real for Real Cuisine. It's something about more nutritious. I forgot what it was when she introduced it to us last season. Something about more nutritious, easy to make frozen dinners or something. So she's there with her daughter and with her CFO, and she tells us that she had an assistant, but her assistant quit. So her CFO suggested that she hire Stella. So I guess Stella's working as her assistant. She says she received 2 lump sums from David, but her monthly checks that she gets are not even enough to cover her monthly bills. So she says she's kind of has to financially support herself and the kids. She says that she's the only one who's paying for Sophie's college education, and most likely when the twins go to college, she's going to be the only one paying for their education. So I'm like totally not understanding why David won't assist with paying for his own children's college education. That doesn't make any sense to me, that he would seem to not want to do that, because I understand that he has to give money to Shannon for spousal support, I guess, or alimony. And the twins, I think, are still under the age of 18, so she probably gets child support for them as well. I'm just not understanding why, when it's time for them to go to college, David won't help with that. It seems like he would want to help with that. At least go 50-50 with Shannon. I just can't imagine him being like, no, you're going to take care of their college education. I'm not going to do anything. That doesn't make any sense to me. But that's what she says. So moving on to Gina. So Gina has a double date with Emily and Shane. Emily said that she hadn't eaten. This is a really funny scene. Emily has said that she hadn't eaten all day except for a granola bar. And then Shane was like, oh yeah, and also the Subway sandwich that I got you. Like, she completely forgot that she had an entire meal, but makes it look like, she hadn't eaten anything all day until they got to the restaurant. So Emily says that she met with Nicole, and, they made amends because, at the party at Heather's event, Emily and Nicole had gotten into it. And then as Emily was walking away, Nicole had said some really mean things about Emily, calling her chubby or whatever. So she says her and Nicole had met and they made amends, so they're good. And she invited Nicole to Shane's bar passing party because Emily is throwing Shane a bar passing party. And then Gina tells Emily that Noella's husband had filed for divorce, and Emily didn't know. So she and Shane were both shocked about that. And so in her confessional, Emily schools us a little bit on the law. She says that in California, when a divorce is filed, there's like an automatic protective order, or what does she call it? An automatic, restraining order. And the restraining order does not allow, I guess, either spouse to freeze any accounts, credit cards, or whatever. That any type of financial, any credit cards or bank accounts that they may share together, you can't freeze them. So both parties have to have access to the money. So the fact that her husband, Noella's husband, was able to do that, he's doing this under Puerto Rican law because he's in Puerto Rico. And I guess because he's got property in Puerto Rico, he's able to, claim residency of some type of Puerto Rico, and so therefore he's able to use Puerto Rican jurisdiction to file for divorce against Noella, I'm assuming. So maybe in Puerto Rico they don't have such injunctions, and he's able to freeze the credit cards, or she's not able to use them. like, what is happening with these men on The Real Housewives? You got David, who doesn't want to pay college tuition for his children. You've got James over here, who's frozen the credit cards so that Noella doesn't have access to them to take care of their son. I don't know if she also has no bank account of her own, or I don't know whether or not she has access to the bank account, because she doesn't talk about the bank account. She's always talking about the credit cards. And I'm thinking that, isn't she smart enough to like have her own account as well, for her own expenses, so that if her husband were to turn absolutely everything off, she would still be able to use some money to take care of her son? I don't know, because Noella's only going to tell us what Noella wants us to know. So then they talk about Shannon, and they both conclude, both Emily and Gina both conclude that, yeah, Shannon is an enabler. No, she's not a. Shannon needs an enabler. She only wants people around her who are like her yes man, who are only going to let her do whatever she wants to do and not check her. So because Emily and Gina are the kind of people that are going to check somebody, I guess, Shannon, they can't really facilitate a friendship with Shannon. Moving on. Shannon. She is talking to, okay, so she takes Stella to Dr. Moon, her holistic doctor, and Stella had hurt her back in volleyball. So Shannon decided to take her to Dr. Moon for some type of holistic treatment. In Stella's confessional, she says that she really doesn't believe in this holistic treatment stuff. She's only doing it to appease her mother. So Dr. Moon does whatever he does. He sticks the needles in her and, whatever. And then he checks her, because she wanted her emotions checked as well. So Stella asked Dr. Moon, can you check my emotions? And so he checks her liver, because he says the liver is what controls the anger, or your liver is affected when you're angry. And he's like, yeah, I feel something in your liver. So evidently Stella is angry about something. So when Dr. Moon is gone, Shannon says, well, she basically dismisses Dr. Moon from his own office and says, Dr. Moon, can I have a moment with Stella? So Dr. Moon leaves his own office. And so then Shannon asks her daughter, why are you angry? No, first she says, does your back hurt? No, first she says to Stella, are you still in pain? And Stella's like, yeah, I hurt my back. My back hurts. As if to say, whatever Dr. Moon didn't work. And so then Shannon says, well, you have to give it time. And then, you're going to feel better after you give it time. Whatever, Shannon. So then Shannon's like, well, why are you angry? And Stella says, well, because I see how stressed out you are at work. And I guess they also see how stressed out she is with David as well. And in her confessional, Stella's like, I just want to see my mom happy. And it's really sweet when the girls really look out for Shannon like that, because I feel like Shannon's a lot to handle. I feel like she's a lot to handle. And now Stella lives with her and works with her. That's a lot. So Stella says in her confessional, well, I just really want to see my mom happy. And then Shannon in her confessional talked about how her kids were exposed to the toxicity that was going on between her and David, and that she just doesn't want that to affect, her kids in any way. But it's like, I mean, they were really, really young. And then they showed a flashback of when they were much, much younger. The twins must have been like, I don't know, 12 or 13 years old. And David is apologizing to his kids about his actions, I guess. And, it's a lot for a kid to take on, when your parents when they evidently have done something wrong and now they have to come and apologize to you. And as a kid, it's like, I'm pretty sure they felt really, it was a really weird time for them. And kids just want everything to be better. They just want mom and dad to be happy together. They want whatever issues mom and dad are having just to go away. And they just want life to be back to normal. And they'll accept whatever apology. They don't care who did what to whom. They just want things to be better. So that was like a really, sad scene. Let's move on. Noella. She's poolside with her mom at her house, I guess, her house that she shares with her absent husband. She's sitting poolside with her mom, Nancy, and the mom is talking about how, they're talking about James and all the stuff that he's been doing. And the mom is basically telling Noella, the James that we know is gone. So what are you going to do about it? And Noella is still like, no, 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 no. He's still there. The man that I fell in love with, he's still there. Noella, you got served with divorce papers. Your husband is $6 million in tax debt. The blogs are talking about you like crazy. He cut off your credit card so you can't take care of your child. No. The James that you fell in love with, whoever that person was, or whoever you think he was, is non-existent, is no more. Stop living in la la land. Get yourself together and figure out, let's move on to plan B, because plan A is not working. Plan A is gone. Let's move on to plan B. You need to make preparations for life after James. Life after being married to James. Let's focus on that instead of waiting for the old James that you married a year ago to come back. This is the real James. Okay, the James that you're seeing right now, because I don't think they've dated that long. They've only been married a year. I don't remember how long they were dating, but they've only been married a year. This James right here, the one that's left you high and dry with your autistic son, this is the real James. This ain't the real James. This is the new James. This is the James that you have to be accustomed to. So let's kind of grow up a little bit, Noella, and figure out what we're going to do instead of meeting up with friends and getting drunk at every lunch and dinner. Let's come up with a plan B so you can have a successful life after James. So moving on, Emily. So she's doing this party for Shane. So Noella is FaceTiming Shannon as Shannon is getting ready for the party. And first they talk about James. Noella thanks Shannon for being there for her and being very supportive. And Shannon really doesn't give a damn about any of that because she wants to talk about herself and Heather, because Shannon is like laser focused on getting back. It's kind of like Heather is like the popular girl of the show, and Shannon is doing whatever she can to try to sit at the popular girls table. That's how I see it, because I don't understand why she's putting so much energy into being Heather's friend again, especially when Heather continues to give her the cold shoulder. After that first, if I was Shannon and I've apologized to you that one time in her home when everything went down at Heather's home, and you apologized and Heather just was kind of like, yeah, I really don't care, you would not get not one other apology from me after that first time, because it was at the moment of the incident I realized the mistakes that I've done. I'm coming to you to apologize, and you still act like you could care less about my apology. You will not get another apology from me ever again. So she texted her. She apologized again, wanted to meet with her. She still got snubbed. So now she's sitting in her makeup chair talking to Noella before the party and telling Noella, yeah, have you talked to Shannon? And Noella's like, yeah, I spoke with her, and it seems like, she's good with everybody except you. And so Shannon is like, oh my God. Well, when I see her at the party, I'm going to have to apologize again. I'll try to apologize again. Why? Why? First of all, so let me try to really examine this. Shannon is friends with, or has some type of a friendship or association with MGen, which is Emily and Gina. She realizes that Heather is friends with this chick named Nicole. So at first, Shannon's really not sure if this is the Nicole that she knew from way back when, from 20 years before, when they both were dropping off their kids in preschool. So she remembers that way back when Nicole was getting all this surgery done, this plastic surgery done from a Dr. Dubrow, and the surgery didn't go well, so she ends up suing Dr. Dubrow. So Shannon is trying to make sure this is the right Nicole that she's thinking of. So once she confirms that this is that Nicole, she goes and she tells Emily and Gina, oh, Heather is friends with this girl who 20 years ago sued her husband. And so I don't understand why she could be friends with someone who tried to sue her husband for a bad boob job. So then you find out that lawsuit was dropped. You bring it up. Okay, you bring it up to people who bring it up to Heather in a public forum. And Heather feels embarrassed. She feels blindsided because she didn't know about this lawsuit. So she has to go confront her husband and figure out what the hell happened. Her husband probably had to call his attorney and dig up some old court records to figure out exactly what happened because he probably doesn't remember. And so then it comes out that the story was much ado about nothing. And so Heather questions, why was this even brought up? If the lawsuit had gone somewhere, and Dr. Dubrow had to shell out some money or whatever, if Nicole actually won this lawsuit against Dr. Dubrow, maybe things would have been different. But it comes out that the lawsuit was dismissed. It wasn't even much of anything. He wasn't even supposed to be sued. Whatever actions that were filed were not filed against him, or the actions was dropped or whatever. So now, because the lawsuit was dismissed, Heather is questioning Shannon's motive. And so, Shannon, like, what do you say now? What is the purpose of you bringing this up? Even if the lawsuit went somewhere, what is the purpose of you bringing up something that has got nothing to do with you? If you're wondering, well, why would Heather be friends with someone that sued her husband? Well, why don't you go to Heather and ask her instead of going to MJen and gossiping behind Heather's back, and then they bring it to Heather. They beat you to the punch and they brought it to Heather. Why wouldn't you, Shannon, go to Heather yourself and ask her? So anyways, so yeah. So she says, well, when I go to the party, the Shane's bar passing party, I'm going to have to apologize again. Moving on, Heather. So Heather is arriving at the party with Nicole, her husband, with her husband, Dr. Dubrow, Nicole, and Nicole's boyfriend. And Heather says in her confessional that she wants to make it crystal clear to everybody, especially Shannon, that her and Nicole are good and they have no issues, and the issue is Shannon. So so Nicole tells her on their ride to the party, Nicole shares with Heather that, yeah, I went out to lunch with Noella and we were talking about, her husband, and I was letting her know that you were being you're supporting her, you're there for her if she needs you, so on and so forth. And Noella said that she called you a fake B. Yeah, she called you a fake B. And Heather was like, that's strange, because every time that I've interacted with her, it's been pleasant. And, I thought it was really sweet that when she reached out to my daughter, Max. So where is this coming from? So they get to the party. So we're all at the party. So first at the party, by the way, Shane graduated from law school in 2003. He passes the bar in 2020, 2021, I don't know, maybe 2020. So it took him 17 years to pass the bar. I'm not even hating on that, because I know that taking the bar and going to law school alone and then taking the bar, I know that is like a huge, that's a big deal in anyone's life. So for him, even though it took him 17 years, I don't know if he was constantly taking it throughout the 17 years or if he was taking these huge gaps before he would take it again. I don't know. But for sure, congratulations to Shane. It just shows that if you just continue working towards your dream and you don't give up and you're just so persistent to achieve your goals, you can and you will achieve your goals. So good for Shane. So Heather greets Noella. She's really cordial with Noella when she gets to the party. She gives her a hug, she gives her a kiss. Very sincere, very warm. And she also gives her a gift because she was just really grateful on how sweet Noella was to her daughter Max. And so she gives her a gift as well. And so then Jen shows up. Dr. Jen shows up. She greets Noella and says that, so when she greets Noella, Dr. Jen says, yeah, whenever we get a moment, I want to touch base with you. And Noella rolls her eyes because she thinks that every time that she interacts with Dr. Jen is basically like really fake. She says that whenever I speak to her, there's a lack of connection and a lack of truly caring. So I don't understand the beef between Dr. Jen and Noella. I don't know what's the real deal going on there. Shannon shows up. So Emily doesn't waste any time. She confronts Shannon. She's like, why would you tell Heather that me and Gina were untrustworthy and manipulative? And Shannon says, I didn't say that. And so then Emily says, so you're saying Heather's a liar. So Emily says, so you're saying Heather's a liar. So Emily grabs Heather and brings her into the conversation. And Heather is like, I thought we weren't going to do all of this tonight. And Emily's like, no, 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 it's all good. It's all good. So Shannon tells me that she didn't even tell you that me and Gina were untrustworthy and manipulative. And Shannon, she realizes that she kind of got caught. So Shannon's like, well, I didn't say that. I didn't tell her that y'all were manipulative. I may have said that Gina was not to be trusted. I don't remember if I said you were not to be trusted. And I didn't use the word manipulative. And Heather says, Shannon, you told me that Emily and Gina were not to be trusted and that they were manipulative. That is what you said to me. So then Heather leaves. She's like, you know what? I don't even want to talk about this. Because Shannon is like backtracking now. Okay, she's backtracking with what she knows, what she said. She knows that she said she was referring to both of them, because you can't talk about one without talking about the other. Because Gina and Emily are like conjoined twins. So whatever you said about one, you have to say about the other. So Shannon is backtracking and blah 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 blah, trying to clean up her act, trying to, whatever she's trying to do, trying to make herself look like she didn't say whatever she said, but she said it, and she said it about both of them. And she did use the words untrustworthy and manipulative. I believe that she did. So then, so Heather is like, you know what? I'm not even interested in this. So Heather leaves, and then Shannon, because she's so desperate to get into Heather's good graces and, be accepted by Heather and be accepted in Heather's world. So Shannon's like, well, I'm going to go talk to her. So Heather is busy trying to mingle. I think Heather just walked up to the first stranger that she saw at the party, because I heard her go, do I know you? She just walked up to some random person. She's like, do I know you? She was just trying to get the hell out of that conversation. So then Shannon tracks her down, and she's like, Heather, can I talk to you? And Heather's like, you know what? I do not want to ruin this party, so we need to have a conversation in private. So they find Emily, and they're like, we need to talk in private. Where can we go? So Emily leads them to like a private section of the home, wherever they're at. And so now Heather and Shannon are talking in private, face to face. And so Shannon starts with her very tearful apology. I didn't mean to hurt you. I value our friendship. I was so wrong for putting my trust in the wrong people. I don't want to make it look like I'm a gossip. I'm just so sorry, Heather. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. And Heather, cold as ice, she goes, is it my turn now? And Shannon's like, yes. And Heather says to her, and I quote, Heather says, you had a huge lapse in judgment. I've heard from all sides. If you ever come after me or my family again, you're going to lose more than just my friendship. This is not a threat. This is a promise. And that's where the episode ended. And Shannon looked thoroughly terrified. Shannon, I'm like, how do you come back? I mean, how do you come back? How do you respond to that? Cold as ice. Heather is not trying to hear it. She does not see it for Shannon, because I don't know. I really thought that Heather would have just been like, okay, fine, I accept your apology. Let's just move forward, because Dr. Dubrow was vindicated. The lawsuit that never was dismissed against him. So he was basically vindicated. I don't understand like why Heather is like, and I guess it's just a buildup of, the whole of their whole history, their friendship history. The whole thing has built up to this moment, to this point. It's not just about the lawsuit and Nicole. I think it's just everything. I think maybe Heather feels like, I've tried to trust you again and again and again, giving you the benefit of the doubt, and you still want to come after me and my family, and you're still trying to burn me. And so I think Heather has had it with Shannon. And now Shannon, girl, if I ever hear the words, I need to apologize to Heather, I just need to try to make it work out with her, stop. Heather doesn't want to be your friend. There's nothing that Heather can gain from being your friend. So it's not going to happen. I don't know how she's going to proceed on this show, because it seems like everybody's team Heather. except maybe Noella. All she has is Noella, and Noella is so, she's drowning in her own problems and her own misery with her husband David. I don't know how much of a friend Noella can be to Shannon, but yeah, that's where the episode ended, and that was a really good episode. That ending was everything. Ooh. Heather was cold as ice. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.